Hello everyone, this is Jimmy and welcome to episode 15 of Levitated. Today I would like to start by making the Flugel Tiara. I guess these are just decorative variants of it. This is an item that gives us limited creative flight. This uses our 4 remaining Gaia Spirit ingots that earlier I've been saving these for doing the Gaia Guardian 2 fight, but it looks like we won't be doing that fight for some time. So we'll just do another Gaia Guardian 1 before we do Gaia Guardian 2. Anyways, that goes in one of our bauble slots, and also made and filled up a band of mana, because flying with this thing requires mana. And it lets us fly around pretty quickly and gives us a dash. I'm actually kind of torn whether I want to upgrade the Flugel Tiara into the Angel Ring or not. Upgrading the Flugel Tiara to the Angel Ring does it gives us an Angel Ring, which is unlimited creative flight, whereas the Flugel Tiara, as you see here, when we fly, it uses up these, like, spectral wings, and when those run out, we no longer fly, but it also has this really nifty dash. But sometimes the dash is annoying because, like, you dash whenever you start a sprint, and sometimes I just want to sprint a little bit. I don't want to dash. I don't know. I think I'll leave it as a Flugel Tiara for now, and if it turns out that I want an Angel Ring instead, we'll upgrade it in a day or so. The upgrade from the Flugel Tiara to the Angel Ring is quite easy, I believe. I already have that ring, so yeah, it's 4 gold, 2 glass, and a ghast and a lasso. Moving on to the project for today. We started the process of creating processors last episode for the applied engineering processors, and there's still quite a bit of stuff left in queue. It's going to finish making the engineering ones, and then make as many logic ones as it can, and then eventually we run out of, I guess, printed silicon. That's alright. For now, I just need some of these, because with that, we should be able to make ME controllers. So I think this has to use pure flux, right? Sure. 32 ME controllers. That seems like a reasonable number. Let's set this up. I would like to get at least a basic functional ME system today. Maybe we put the controller... I don't really want to get too... I guess we can just move our Gaia field, right? We can make flat terrain very easily. Okay, let's put our controller here. It doesn't need to be a huge controller. I'm gonna even, I think, like, float it a couple blocks off the ground so I can access the underside if needed. We'll start with maybe like a 3x3 main controller. That gives us access to plenty of sides for putting P2p terminal or P2p interfaces on. And then we'll have a subnet controller right here. As far as ME cables go, I think I'm going to try to avoid using these cables because they use a lot of wool. So these are the standard applied Energistics cables. The covered cable, which is required for both smart cables as well as dense cables, uses wool, and I don't have wool automated yet. I don't have spider DML or a sheep farm, or even like I don't have an automated plant farm that's making hemp yet. So to make this, we have to do something that I haven't done yet. Instead, I will rely on dense ME conduits, which are basically the same, except, you know, they use the conduit system from Ender.io. They can run in other block spaces, but perhaps the biggest thing is that dense conduits don't use wool. The biggest downside is that they also don't display how many channels are used. Perhaps you can get that information with a conduit probe. I'm not actually 100% sure, but you definitely can't, at a glance, see how many channels are used. Oh well, it's not a huge problem. Some other components we'll need include a number of P2p tunnels. I would like to make more than one. What am I out of to make more iron? All right. The downside of working over here is that I'm so far away from my resources. So if I ever need to come over here, it's like I have to fly for 5 whole seconds to get more iron. But at least sometimes the dash works, so I can dash back. But anyways, P2p tunnels. When possible, I prefer to use the pures just because each regular flux makes 2 pures. 18 seems like a reasonable starting number. We need some... Let's see. We need a storage drive, so... an ME drive. Let's make 2. And then some storage cells. I think maybe 4K is a good... maybe 16K. Let's start with 16K storage cells. So if I want 20 16K cells to fill my 2 drives, that's 60 4K drives, or 60 times 3, 180 1Ks. Ooh, that's a lot. Can we make those? For Certus, I just use regular Certus because we have effectively an infinite supply of it, and it just saves us a step of making it into pures. All right, well, there's 28. Last few of these, so I think that's enough. Then we can upgrade the 1Ks into 4Ks. It does get more efficient as you go up. This is why, if possible, use better cells. You get, right, 3 times 1 is less than 4, but you get 4 out of it. Likewise, once again, that's glowstone. But 3 times 4 is less than 16, but you get 16 out of it. So, come on, give me a dash. No dash? Alright, fine. Anyways, glowstone. Let's also double check to see if this thing is still running. No, it's broken. I have to repair that pickaxe every now and then because it's not unbreakable yet. This pickaxe will probably never really hit. Oh wait, it has one more modifier. Let's give it both let's both repair it with a couple, those are dark steel ingots. Dark steel ingots, and give it the next level of unbreakable. Of course, even with this, it still needs 2 more unbreakables to be truly unbreakable. And it's taking 16,000 EXP a level. So I need 16,000 and then the next level is 32,000. That'll be a little bit of time, but oh well. I'm gonna go fix up the one in the nether as well. I suspect that one's also broken. Another pickaxe, because we made it from scratch for this purpose, we didn't use some of its modifiers on speed. So it has much lower mining speed than, say, this pickaxe, which has like 6 modifiers used on speed, but it only has 12 despite being made from a much faster material. We can also make it fully unbreakable. So first repair it. I guess it only needs 1 ingot. And then, let's see, reinforce it to 80% and 100%. So now we never have to repair this pickaxe. In fact, I'm gonna switch the rolls up a little bit, I think. I think we need more overworld materials than nether ones. We're going to put the overworld pickaxe as the unbreakable one. And then after, what, 725, that's 40, it only uses durability 40% of the time. So this will do like a bit under 2,000 mining operations before it breaks. And when it breaks, we'll just have to, repair it again. Back at this again, upgrade our 4Ks into 16s. And the last step I'm going to hold off on doing for now because turning them into drives makes them no longer stack. So I think we can make housings which do stack 20, but the drives themselves don't because they have empty data. So we'll just store them as items for now. And it looks like I brought a little bit of extra redstone over. Oh well, pretty soon we won't need all these chests floating around with crafting ingredients in them. With that, I think, well, let's make the last thing we need, which are the terminals. So what are these terminals? Wireless ultimate terminal. Crafting pad. Oh, so you can put your pattern and interface terminal into your crafting terminal. Interesting. Okay, well, let's start with the non-wireless terminals. That seems like a natural starting point, right? Yeah, so make, we're going to want at least the crafting terminal. I mean, I guess that's all we need for now is just the crafting terminal. If we have a crafting terminal, we can add on all the other stuff afterwards. It'll be much easier to craft with a unified inventory. So I'm not going to try to make everything right off the bat. I just want to make enough stuff that we can make a unified inventory. That is just put all our items in one place so I don't have to fly across our base to look for crafting tables, which I'm pretty sure are in here somewhere. Yeah, they are. Found it. I prefer to lay out my applied energistics networks using heavy use of P2p, which stands for point-to-point, because it dramatically reduces the amount of cabling you have to run. So each face of an ME controller can be used to extract up to 32 channels from the network, or for your network. But in order to get all 32 channels, you have to use dense cable. Dense cable, or dense conduit by extension, transfers 32 channels, whereas this type of regular cable only does 8. And as we saw, dense cable is not exactly cheap. So by using P2p, you can compress 32 channels down into 1 channel. So think of it kind of like a compressor. It like when you zip a text file, right? It gets a lot smaller. The P2p tunnel zips it, but you can't zip a zip file again. You can't take you can't take a P2p connection and put it through another P2p connection. That's a 90% true statement. There are edge cases where you can do it. That's where you're doing different types of P2p. But kind of like, you know, if you try to zip a zip file again, it doesn't actually get any smaller 99.9% of the time. Anyways, this P2p tunnel is zipping the connections. It's taking the 32 channels coming off of this side of the control, this face of the controller, turning them into one channel, which goes into along this glass cable. Then that goes into this here, which is serving as my subnet controller. A network, whether no matter what type of network, but any applied Energistics network that doesn't have a controller on it only has access to 8 channels. By putting a controller here, now we have 32 channels on this branch here, right? So each of these tunnels takes up one channel, regardless of whether or not they're actually doing anything. Each P2p tunnel takes up a channel, and that means we have, what, 3 times 4, 12 channels in use here, but this gives 32, so that's okay. Now we're gonna have to use our imagination here a bit, because I can't make the, well, not that I can't, but I'm not making any dense smart cable, which means that we can't actually see the channel numbers. We're gonna have to, you know, trust me or use our imagination. But anyways, here on this end, when we link our P2p tunnels together, where's that memory card? That's in my hand. We can see that now these two are linked. This one is output side, that one is input side. So this is, think of this as creating the zip file, and this as opening the zip file. And on the output side here, we now have 32 channels again, except we've now transferred 32 channels using effectively 2, right? This one, or that tunnel, and this tunnel each use a channel. So by doing this, we can actually largely make the channel system of applied Energistics null and void. It doesn't add any difficulty. Because by compressing it down 32x, it's very easy to work around. All right, so we're gonna put our storage or our terminal here. Very good. And then we have to put our storage drives somewhere. And I'm thinking we'll just run them over here. And they're in this chest, if I recall. Just slap them down. And at this point, I think we can craft these into the actual drives. Store them here. Oh dear, where did it put the rest? I put it in there. All right, anyway, so I'm gonna take a second, fill up our drives with storage cells. All filled up. And we can now dump our items in here. So any items that we don't need, you know, to carry around on us at any given moment can just be stored into here. For now, in fact, I'm probably just going to empty out my inventory almost completely. I'll keep my sword, my food, and my memory card. Everything else will store in here. I personally like to set my terminal to sort by number of items and JEI synchronize standard keep. So JEI synchronize, it synchronizes the search field with JEI. Standard means that it means not auto. So auto, when you open, here, let me set it to auto. When you set it to auto and open the terminal, the text field starts selected. Whereas if you set it to standard, it starts unselected. And keep just remembers your search between terminal openings. Different people have different preferences. I've asked this before. I found that some people use sort by number of items, and that baffles me. It's, why would you ever? I don't know. I'm so used to sorting by oh, sorry. I mean, some people sort by item name. Like if you sort by item name, it's sorted in a random order because there's, I mean, it's not truly random, but it's by item name. I don't know. I've always sorted by number of items, and it doesn't make any sense in my mind to do anything else. These other buttons here, we're not going to look at them for now. Anyways, I'm going to take, what's an easy way for me to move all my items over? I think before we move our items over, I'm going to, how much conduit do I have left? I want to run, we're going to need access to our ME network over there so I can put storage buses on some of those, you know, those storage devices there, right? So I think I'm going to run that cable over there now, just so that we can make the process of transferring our items over to this a little bit easier. Looking at things, running a cable from here to our base is going to take like 2 stacks of cables. That's not unreasonable, but it's also a lot of cables. So why don't I try using the 82 Stuffs wireless connector? I almost never use this block because it is the energy cost scales exponentially with distance. So the way it works is that for distances that are short enough where it's reasonable to use it, why don't you just run a cable? For distances where that aren't short enough, why don't you, or for distances that aren't short, it's too expensive. So it's never really had a use for me, but I figure perhaps this is just the right spot. So we can link two together like so, and something tells me how much energy they use. Right-clicking a network tool on it will tell you the energy usage of the network, and then you can just see exactly how much this thing uses. So this wireless connector is using 60 or 48 AE per tick. I believe AE is equivalent to RF. No, it isn't. 2 to 1 with RF. So just over this short distance, we're using 96 RF a tick. So it's like over that short a distance, 96, whatever. But if I were to put this over here where I actually need it, let's see, we need to connect to these two storage networks are the two big things. Right, if I connect, if I connect you to you, now how much energy are you using? Yeah, okay, never mind. Come on, really? You don't need to use this much energy. We're going over like, how far away is it? Does it tell me? It doesn't. It's like 80 blocks. We're going 80 blocks and you're going to charge me 18,000 RF a tick for it? Go away, stupid thing. All right, now I know why I've never used this thing before for exactly this reason. The distance at which it is affordable is a distance at which you may as well run a cable. And then once you get beyond distance where you may as well just run a cable, it ceases to be affordable. Anyways, I think to make this actually a bit cheaper, I'm going to only, because almost all of my machines are going to go, say, that way or that way, everything this way, it's like legacy stuff. I think we're just going to run regular ME conduit, not dense conduit there. That only gives us 8 channels, but I'm hoping that 8 channels still gives us access to 8 P2p tunnels. So, like, that's still 8 times 32 channels, right? What, like 250 plus 256 channels? That should be enough. I mean, that is enough. There's no world in which that is not enough. So instead of paying that 18,000 RF a tick, I'm just running a cable here. Look at that. Simple as that. And then on this side, I will use dense cable because on this side, if I use normal cable, I still only get 8 channels, right? So, how do I do this? Sorry, Anvil, you're gonna have to go. Did I damage the anvil? Didn't even damage the anvil. But we can put a terminal here to make it easier to put items away. Sorry, anvil, you're gonna have to go again. Didn't damage the anvil again. I'm the best. But the whole reason I'm staking a cable over here in the worst way possible by the looks of things is to put a storage bus onto, let's put a controller slave here. A storage bus on that, a storage bus on this door system, and I guess those doors are part of these doors, right? So I guess that's it. 2 storage buses. Storage buses like this, when connected to an inventory, just link that inventory to your applied Energistics system, so you can both take items out of it and put items into it. Now when we look into here, we find that our network is unpowered. Did I link this? Unlinked. Why does it think it's unlinked? I probably missed a piece of cable somewhere along the line here, and the two are just not connected. So that is powered. Let me find where I missed my connection. Probably under this thing. Shift right-clicked this terminal because I didn't have this line in my text when I meant to paste the config settings. So that meant instead of this trying to be an output, it was a newly configured input. So anyways, now when we reset that, we see a lot more items. These are all the items that are stored in most of the drawers throughout the base, and this will dramatically reduce the amount of time I spend running around to get stuff. One last thing then is just clean up and throw everything into the ME system. So I think for this, I'm going to grab my magnet. And this is the last step in what is effectively the setup phase of Applied Energistics, where you have to like connect to all your legacy systems and yada yada yada. That is by far the most difficult and annoying part of setting up Applied Energistics, just dealing with all your legacy systems. Thankfully, I did design my legacy systems with intent to one day be connected. So, you know, I laid them out somewhat reasonably, but I still have to run all the wiring to it and yada, yada, yada. But anyways, my plan is just to spill literally everything onto the floor. Apparently, there's a limit to how many items a magnet can magnet. And then dump it all in here. All cleaned up. No more random chests. Oh, wait, one more random chest. Ugh, that's so satisfying. Watch all the items spill out. But now all of our items are in one place, so I don't have to search through 30 chests to find things. I don't have to remember which chest it's in or use world search to find it. It's all in here. Nice. With that out of the way, let's see what we can do next. So I had previously my various machine chassis pinned. I guess now's as good a time as ever to get into that. I'm actually thinking, so I think we'll leave our pneumatic craft system here as it is, doing its own thing, and I'll set up a whole nother pneumatic craft. Maybe I'll move like the assembly line stuff, because that's kind of expensive. But like we'll leave our oil processing here. I'll set up another set of pneumatic craft stuff over here that can be more easily connected to our ME system. I'll, you know, lay it out in a more sensible way that can handle auto crafting of these various things, stuff like the enhanced chassis or the various other chassis. But perhaps if our intention is to get into auto crafting, let's start by doing automation of this 3x3 crafting grid. So to do that, we need molecular assemblers. These are basically just crafting tables, automated crafting tables. Interfaces, these are what send the patterns to the crafting tables, and some number of patterns. These are what actually hold the patterns. So can we make some of these? We can. Nice. 25. All right, we do this at a pattern terminal. Lastly, a good to have but not required thing is the interface terminal. So we'll put this right next to our pattern terminal. This lets us view all of our interfaces. All right, so I'm going to make what I call an assembler tree. Each ME interface here takes up a channel. Molecular assemblers do not. Because each wire can only support up to 32 channels, it's convenient to put 32 interfaces on one channel and just dedicate that, or on one wire, and dedicate that entire wire to crafting, and then I build them vertically, so they end up looking vaguely like a tree. For that, then, I have my 32 interfaces. I believe an interface tree in its most, well, my interface trees in their most optimum setup have a 4-to-1 ratio, maybe a 3-to-1 ratio of assemblers to interfaces, but to save on just raw material costs right now, assemblers are actually, you know what, assemblers are cheap enough that out of glass. Maybe they're not that. I mean, glass is easy to make, right? I'm cooking up another 8 stacks of it. I guess let's just make all of the interfaces for all the assemblers. So we'll go for, I think it's either 3 or 4-to-1 ratio. I'm gonna start with, I guess, 3-to-1 and see if we have enough. Before I lay that out, though, let's take a look at the recipes for the wireless crafting stuff. I think we can actually make a wireless crafting terminal. I don't really need all the variants of the wireless terminal, but just a wireless crafting terminal, or even just a basic wireless terminal to let me access the contents on the go would be quite nifty. It'll save me the trouble of having to fly back here to our terminal, you know, out of something or another flux dust. It'll save me the trouble of flying back to our terminal every time I need to pick something up, like more cables. So I've been pulverizing more. We need to really upgrade our sag mill here. It is slow. Here's the basic wireless terminal. Well, that's not very useful on it. Well, it is fine on its own. It doesn't have crafting capabilities, so no reason not to upgrade it at the very least to the crafting terminal variant. And there we go. Okay, now to link this, we also need a security station. This is it. as its name suggests, it provides security features. It can like keep people out of your network if you're playing, with other people. But I'm not, so I don't need the security features. I just need it. Oopsies, wrong words. We just need its base. We just need its ability to link terminals with the network. Here we go. This has to be connected to the network, but it doesn't really care where. So I guess right here will do. Then just put your terminal in this slot and it'll link it. And then because we have wireless charging set up through our Flux networks, we can just put this on a hotbar and it gets charged. Wireless out of range, right. Next step was we have to give it some type of wireless range. So that is a access point, I believe. Yeah, should be easy enough to make. One more Fluix pearl. One of these. And one of these. Oh, I'm out of Wi-Fi. We'll use the full-size Fluix crystals then. I'm out of pure Fluix. The basic access point without upgrades only gives a little bit of range. So it gives 16 meter range, but within those 16 meters, it does at least let us open up the UI. Then we can put some of our infinity boosters in. These come from mob drops, and I believe they can be made with Enderman DML. But each one, when you place it in here, gives you a little bit of infinity energy, and that lets you open your terminal from anywhere outside of range, but it also uses 1 infinity energy per tick, I believe. So it's not a very efficient system. Instead, because we'll be spending 90% of our time in the base, we may as well upgrade our access point with wireless boosters. And those just increase the radius of your wireless access point while also increasing its energy cost. So you want Ender Dust or Ender Pearl Dust? I guess that's Sagbilly Ender Pearls gets us 9 each. That seems like a good deal. Ah, bamboozled again. Ender Pearl Powder is not an acceptable substitute in this pattern. I think this is definitely not the first time I've been fooled. It accepts dust or pearl dust, and these are just made by compressing the Ender Pearl Powder. So, whatever. I think about 32 boosters is the most you'll ever really need. The energy increases, I believe, with the cube of the radius. Basically, you pay about the same amount of energy per cubic block covered, but the radius is obviously 3-dimensional space. So with 32, you get 200 meter radius that easily covers the whole base and then some, for a reasonable cost. Actually, I guess the energy cost can't be directly proportional to volume, right? Because otherwise this cost would be a lot more. So I don't know. Whatever. Perhaps it's proportional to the square. No, it's not even proportional to the square of radius. Point is, it gets higher as you use more, and 200 meter radius is sufficient. It's a good balance. Now I can open this terminal anywhere, in this area, and we get to see our items without having to use up our somewhat limited infinity energy. Really quick though, I think I will add a thing to convert our Enderman essences into more of those infinity boosters. Having access to some infinity energy, I'd set up a 2x2 drawer for this because that holds, 512 items, that should be enough. Is very nice for when you need to do a little bit of work interdimensionally. While you can link, I don't think these wireless connectors can link interdimensionally, but the Applied Energistics, native wireless system can go interdimensional. It uses a fair bit of power and is a fair bit of a hassle to set up, so if it's just short-term work in another dimension, we can just rely on infinity power to make things work. Anyways, back to setting up our assembler tree. So I think we'll put it right over here. I think I ran some cables. The speed of your molecular or of your crafting is really bottlenecked by the speed at which your molecular assemblers can work. So by putting the maximum number of molecular assemblers around each interface, we can have technically up to 6, but we're going to leave one side for the cable. So 5 molecular assemblers servicing each craft, and that does include putting one out here. So if you exclude the ones that go out here, because these molecular assemblers, these are the least efficient ones, they only each one only serves one interface, whereas the other ones, I think each one serves 2, except the ones at the very top and bottom layer. But if you include these, I think it's a 3-to-1 ratio of molecular assemblers to interfaces. If you exclude the edges or the corners, the ones that poke out, it's a 2-to-1 ratio. But with how cheap molecular assemblers are in this pack, we've already made the full set, so may as well use them all. This is also a bit easier to build with True Creative Light, but right now if I take this off, my Creative Light, for one, if I try to hold shift while doing, oh, I guess it's because I have this, right? Okay, no, that does work. If I hold shift, I can hover in place. But I also I'm in danger of running out of like feathers here, but perhaps more importantly, I'm in danger of running out of mana. So I'm gonna go recharge my ring. When all is said and done, it looks vaguely like a tree. Kind of. So anyways, that's why I call it a molecular assembler tree. Just to confirm it's plugged in correctly, we should be able to see all those interfaces here on our interface terminal. Each one holds 9 patterns, so we have 32 times 9 total crafting patterns we can hold. And now say we wanted to encode the recipe for, probably not a ME controller, but like the applied Energistics components tend to be some of the recipes you encode very early. So I don't know if I want to use pures for that. We'll use normals for now. But we can encode all of these recipes. Likewise, definitely don't use pure for that because that's just not worth making. And that's it. So drop these recipes into here. I also, as a matter of personal preference, like to lay out my patterns going vertically instead of horizontally. If I do this like this, and I request a ME interface, all 3 of the crafting tasks that go into making the ME interface get serviced by the same assembler, and thus they get serviced in series by the molecular assemblers. If I do it this way, they can kind of pipeline the process, right? Some molecular assemblers make this, some make this, and then once these are done, even if it's a larger craft, we can start making ME interfaces while these are crafting. In this case, because we're never going to order more than, maybe 100 interfaces at it, like ordering 100 interfaces at a time is a tremendous number of interfaces. So this recipe, probably not that important to pipeline, but some stuff like, I don't know, if you have something that uses a very deeply nested recipe that involves a lot of crafting steps, pipelining your crafting will make it a lot faster. So that's why I prefer to lay them out vertically. It's a very minor optimization that costs effectively nothing. So with that, I can now order this. Oh, right. Skip the step. I always skip this step. We have to make crafting CPUs. These are what actually hold the intermediates during your crafting job. So I guess let's start off with like a number of 64Ks. Crafting CPUs, I tend to just always go for 64K because you don't need a lot of them, unlike your storage drives, where you do tend to need a lot of them. Unless this pack has some pretty crazy endgame crafting recipes, I expect that 4 64K crafting CPUs will be enough to finish it with. So I'm going to have 4 64K crafting CPUs and a bunch of co-processors to go with them, and then we will put them, I guess, ooh, that dash every now, like, I like it when I'm expecting it, but sometimes it goes off when I'm not expecting it. I'm like, whoa, didn't want to dash right there. But anyways, I'll set them up over here. The size of the crafting CPU determines how big of a crafting task the unit as a whole can handle. And then the number of co-processors just increases the rate at which items can be sent out of the ME system into whatever crafting unit there is. So more is better, but more above a point is unneeded because the machine will be our bottleneck, not the sending of items. And in fact, 7 is enough for almost everything all the time forever. So anyways, with that, we should be able to now actually auto-craft stuff like interfaces. So I've had to make a couple more processors because I used them all, but... Oh, skip a step. You have to actually link. Whoa, dash, easy there. You have to actually link your P2p tunnels. I always forget to do that. Let's try that one more time. Nope, they're not online yet. Come on. There we go. So now we can hit the craft button, see them do their thing, and just like that, we have 20 more ME interfaces. Cool. So at this point, I think we've done most of the setup work to get the Applied Energistics system up. Now we just have to use it to help us automate literally everything. And the first of the literally everythings will be the pneumatic raft made chassis for Ender Isle. But we're out of time today, so that'll be for tomorrow. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care, and bye-bye.